I hope you're having a lovely day or evening, depending on which day you're actually watching this. I have been making some lovely little watercolors all month in the form of ATCs. This is the one I'm sharing today, so I'm going to share a little bit more detail and also of this one. So I decided to do two for today, being the 25th, and also with this idea of greenery and trees. Hi, I'm Zarina, abstract artist, and just to tell you what an ATC is in case you don't know, it stands for Artist Trading Card, and the idea is to give, receive, and inspire. So, sort of a seasonal thing I felt, which is quite nice considering the season. So, I did a range of little paintings in different palettes. I used a couple of different palettes. I like using the three colours, a blue, a yellow and a red, but I'm not really that fussed about which blue, which yellow or which red, although indigo is one of my favourites and I do tend to use that again and again. All the paintings are intuitive paintings, which means it's a style that I have kind of adopted for myself, I suppose, where I will let my own subconscious and my hand lead me, or the paint lead me in a certain direction. And what I come out with is whatever is on the paper or the canvas. Now, I had in mind that these would be sort of landscapey, and they are generally landscapey little paintings. Some are more, perhaps you would say, colourful, autumnal even. For instance, this one has got quite an autumnal feel to it. So they're not really like wintry Christmas scenes or, any of that. They're not dark either, even though I was painting to the soundtracks of Opeth. And if you don't know who Opeth are, they are a sort of progressive rock, heavy metal band, and they will do a lot of, really heavy stuff and growly stuff. But they also do this really melodic and quite really ethereal even, guitar work and also voice work. So they are a very talented band indeed, and I am quite, what's the word? I'm really thankful actually that I could even use their music. It was available on the YouTube playlist for adding music, and I do encourage anyone else who wants to have some great music in the background while you're painting to look them up. So that's Opeth, Opeth. And yeah, it is a bit of a shout out because they are one of my favorite bands, and I am listening to them at the moment quite a lot. But I would say they are a real winter music band, so it goes really well with the work. And even though the work, like I said, is not all dark and dank looking, and I didn't want it to be either because I'm not really a dark and dank person myself. I feel I am quite an optimistic person, and my paintings, I feel, are always, well, they usually have an optimistic turn about them. But it is debatable, of course. And some of these little paintings were more optimistic than others. And by that, I mean they were more colourful or bright. I do try and keep a light, bright aspect to my paintings anyway, and I add in a light source if there isn't one, which is harder with watercolour because watercolour, and in case you're not a watercolour artist or you don't know how to use, well, I'm not going to say you don't know how to use them, but with watercolour, you may know that paper is one of the main things you need to make the watercolour work. And so having really good quality watercolour paper is always going to be a bonus, and it'll always make your watercolours a lot better looking. So if I tried to make any of these paintings on cartridge paper, they just would not come out very nice at all. The other paper that I use is a Fabriano printmaking paper, and this particular painting and a few of the others are on that Fabriano paper, and they come out slightly different to how the watercolour comes out on a watercolour paper, but they equally have a really nice sort of colour depth, and you can maneuver the watercolour around, take it away, put it back, that sort of thing. Not as well as the watercolour paper, mind you. Anyway, those are the technical details if you wanted to know anything about them. But this particular painting, I wanted it to have that kind of tree feel to it, where you have like a landscape with trees, and like when you drive along and you see this like whole bunch of trees there, not too far into the distance but far away enough for you to get a really good view. It's one of those lovely views, and especially in this country, we get some really nice tree lines and foliage views, and I always feel it's harder to paint with green, and I might have said it before on this channel. I do feel that. I feel it's a little bit harder to paint with green than any other colour. And if you just paint with greens just out of the tube, I feel they just don't work as well. So this green has been made by mixing on a palette and have all of the colours in this little series. And there are going to be 31 paintings. So this is day 25 and I've done 2 paintings. So they're actually going to be 32. But I'm okay with that. And this next painting, it's the second painting of the day, and I wanted to get again that feeling of the tree, but the tree in a more enclosed space, a smaller space. It might be that you're still outside, looking at the tree outside, or it might be that the tree has now come inside. So obviously the tradition of bringing trees inside the house, which, to be perfectly fair, I'm not quite sure that I like that tradition, because it was alive a minute ago and you cut it down. I mean, I don't mind potted things, but cutting things down just for the sake of decorating it, I don't know. I feel that you grow one and then decorate it. Put a bit more effort in than just going out and buying stuff. This is sort of sadly part of our culture nowadays, where we just consume, and the giving back part, it should be beforehand. It shouldn't be give back afterwards. It should be, yes, I will set myself up so that I will do this thing without having to give back in that way. I don't know. Anyway, it also causes like landfill and all that kind of malarkey as well. So I'm not really a big fan of bringing trees into the house unless they are potted trees. Yeah, but call me a party pooper if you want. So yeah, so with this particular painting, I used a palette with an indigo and I mixed it with an emerald green. So in this instance, I actually did mix in a green here. It was the emerald green with the indigo, and then I used a cadmium yellow for the yellow in the painting. And this kind of painting is quite a relaxing thing to do, and the fact that the size is quite small, you are not invested hugely, so you know that you can complete this in half an hour or 5 minutes even if you wanted to, or you can spend as long as you want developing it and making it more complicated. So the great thing about watercolor is you can make it as simple or as complicated as you want, and sometimes the simplest things are actually the paintings with more of a wow factor. I wasn't necessarily looking for a wow factor, I'll be honest with you. I was just looking here for me participating in this and actually just painting for the sake of painting, for no other reason. And what will happen to these little paintings is I will probably frame them up, or at least mount them up, and then I will give them to friends and family as presents. So that's going to be perhaps New Year presents for people, and then the rest of them, they will become maybe business cards for me, because I do like to write my address at the back.